imagine that whatever the course that they come up with, Alistair Brownlee and Javier Gomez will be right there. It is a half-distance swim, so the better swimmers over this 750 metres won't have quite the advantage they would have normally over the full 1,500-metre Olympic distance. You can see the starters strolling across the bottom of your screen. Just confirmation, no Alistair Brownlee.
No Johnny. Yeah.
Johnny, I beg your pardon, yeah. Alistair Brownlee, of course, is here. He's only actually run once in the WTS season this season, Barry. That was in San Diego. He won, well, bloodlessly, really.
Then the next week he went and won, came second in a 10,000-meter run in Stanford in a very, very fast time, 28 minutes and change. You know what? I've come up this mountain 3 times in 3 days. I was just out there on the age group race. Pictures still never do justice.
No.
How difficult it is. Some of these guys are going to be absolutely imploded. A number of them who usually use power meters won't be using it today. They want to get rid of every ounce of weight on their bicycles. They've tried to get as lean as they possibly can for this race. It is going to be incredible. And we think that likely Alistair Brownlee is going to try to blow things open very early on the hill. And we'll see who's got the self-control. Gomez said he was going to just do his own race. He wasn't going to worry about trying to race Brownlee up the mountain. If he got to the top with him, he'd be happy, but he'd do it on his own terms.
Stand by for the start. Away they go then for arguably the most eagerly awaited triathlon for years.
Yeah, there are a lot of people tuned in today. Some of the veterans, people like Bevan Doherty, Greg Bennett, some of those old school guys that literally have been looking for a course like this for, you know, most of their career, and they're sad that they've moved on to 70.3 and Ironman races literally one season too early. I've had emails from them. Now, there's some great swimmers in this field, and you'd have to believe that a couple of people like McCartney from Canada, likely to take it out, Vincent Louis from France, phenomenal, Richard Varga, those are like 3 of the names, Raphael from France. I think those guys will absolutely blow this swim apart, but it's not going to be the deciding factor like it sometimes is. We saw Yokohama, 8 men got out of the water, 8 men broke away, the day was over. It doesn't matter, I don't think, the order you come out of the water. You could be 40 seconds down today and still win this race.
It will be fascinating to see how it pans out, because we just don't know. It's a unique race. It's not been tried before quite like this. And Gomez, as ever, is up there along with Ivan Vasiliev there in your picture, number 5.
Just won the European Championships. He's been on the podium a couple of times this year. Nobody has raced more times this season than Ivan Vasiliev. There's young Joel Silva. And you have to think, not specifically, but in general, smaller bodies are going to have a benefit when they get onto this mountain. So it's called watts per kilogram. How much power divided by your body weight. And when your body weight is smaller, you are going to be able to fly. It looks like McCartney out there flying right now in the middle of the field. And you can see these guys, it's going to be carnage in about another maybe 45 seconds, because they make a hard left-hand turn. And they are so close. So these guys, and Schumann also from South Africa is into the group. A couple of the other athletes, I think Schaaf, who's racing for the ITU right now as well, Gomer from Spain. There's Javier Gomez. His left side is really chewed up, and I think he'll probably be back maybe in 24th place out of the water. But he's such a strong cyclist, I don't think it's going to be a big issue for him when he gets out onto the hilly section of this course.
Interesting what you say about this kind of race favouring certain kind of athletes from their body size and body shape. One of the other points as well is you look at someone, for instance, like Richard Murray, who we've seen in the past make up so much ground on the run. Not the best swimmer, he would admit that, an improved cyclist, but a terrific runner.
Yeah.
The run's only 2.5K, so the likes of Murray are not going to have that opportunity here.
Well, you know, it is 2.5K, but I was out there. You come out of the transition zone, immediately you drop for 800 meters. So you are like on a massive drop. Then you turn around and have to come straight back up, which you just ran out. Then you have to climb 130 some meters to get to the finishing line. And literally we saw age groupers walking up the hill, fit age groupers. So don't be surprised to see a lot of carnage out even on the run course. That's Richard Varga right there. Brilliant swimmer. He's had a number of DNFs this year, so we do know that he doesn't always finish the day, but he's often in the first 1 or 2 out of the water. And he's actually got a teammate today from his country who is a elite mountain biker, and that might be something that when you come up the side of this mountain and see how difficult it is, don't be surprised that a couple mountain bikers might just have some brilliance coming up here. These guys have all been changing the setups on their bike, one, to make them lighter, and secondly, to have the best gear ratios so that they can get up this hill. And I just talked to my wife who finished racing out there, and she said she saw a lot of people pushing their bike up the 23% grade. So it is not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, Richard Varga from Slovakia, of course, he was used as a kind of training partner by the Brownlee brothers in the run-up to the Olympics because of his dynamic swimming, and he's leading the way in this shortened swim today. You saw the distance they have to go there. They're over halfway in this swim.
Raphael just coming around the corner as well, so the Frenchman into that bunch. Expect to see probably 2 or 3 French athletes, at least 1 or 2 of the Russians. For sure Varga sitting up there, McCartney from Canada. And again, they have a slight downhill into through town over cobblestone, and then they hit the hill, so somewhere about the 9-minute mark.
The calm before the storm, that is.
Yeah, and I think what's going to happen is a few of the young guys might just get very excited. You know, like they've been coming out of the water with the big boys, people like McCartney from Canada say, get very excited. There's Brownlee, there's Varga, there's a couple of the other very strong swimmers. And then when they hit that hill, you go 440, 450 watts immediately, you're going to pay the price, and 2 miles up, you're going to be in serious trouble.
Will they have done any specific type of training for this race, Barry, that they don't normally do before what you might call a standard triathlon?
Everyone will have done that. It's almost impossible, except for about 8 or 9 athletes came here and trained on this course. I know that Alistair Brownlee actually rode the course. Obviously, the Austrian athletes got here a couple of times in the last 6 weeks and have ridden it. Some of the athletes have gone to Italy and other types of mountains that, you know, simulated 18 to 20% grade. But there's no question that when you see this for the first time, and it's just going to be incredible because you're going to be caught both in the intensity of the race and the difficulty of the course, and you have to have the willpower to find the balance of, you know what, if I go just 2 beats higher in my heart rate, 10 watts higher in the overall power, I may not make it to the top of the mountain. And these guys had the luxury. There was a tour of Austria that was just this week on Monday, and some of the best athletes in the entire world rode this, and there was an 11-minute gap between the best guys at the top and the weakest guys. So if the best cyclists have 11 minutes between them, and that's what they do only for their living, you can imagine if some of these triathletes come out of the water and they just go too hard in the first 10 minutes of the bike ride.
Yeah, I read some of their accounts of that ride, and what was really interesting is that they were saying you had to be really careful not to push too hard in the early stages of the bike, because you could effectively give yourself no chance. There'd be nothing left in the tank, not only before you get to the run, but even the latter stages of the bike. They do have to be wary of that.
Well, yeah, I think that the bike is going to be the killer here, but amazingly, having gone out and walked, I didn't run the run course, but I walked it this afternoon.
You slacker.
I am a true slacker. Having saw those athletes out there, I'm just blown away. There's Raphael, not surprised. He led out of the water in Hotolko. He's been in that big group that comes out of the water in the lead in Madrid. He's a very good rider, but he's a big man, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to crack the kind of power required to stay up there. I think that's the young South African right there that we're just looking at. Great swimmer, no question, and he's a small body, so don't be surprised if he hangs in for a bit of time on the bike. Just got to see where Alistair Brownlee is. It's been a while. Again, Alistair's really only had a couple of races this year, and then virtually nothing since London last year. So he's going to be very thin on events, and he obviously is going to want to have a big performance by the time he gets to London. But
yeah,
he said in the press conference yesterday, look, you know what? I get sick of racing Brownlee or my brother and Gomez and a few of the other boys on a regular basis, you know, on a similar kind of course. I've been looking for something unique like this. So he was very fired up. And, you know, he said, look, I come here to win this race. He's been doing some specific training for it. Had a bit of a foot problem. And, you know, obviously now with his brother out with food poisoning, for those just tuning in, John Brownlee apparently picked up food poisoning 24 hours ago, and he's been trying to get back at it, but just not able to recover in time. And on this course, you can't go in there at all. If you're not 100%, you will not make it to the top of the mountain.
The other thing I thought was really interesting that Alistair Brownlee was saying that, and he's got a terrific record here in Kitbuhel. He's won 3 times here, Barry. And he was saying every time he's come here previously, he's looked around at the mountains and he's looked at the triathlon course and thought, hang on,
why not?
This doesn't quite compute.
Yeah.
So he was hugely keen for there to be this kind of course, and now he's got his wish. We're approaching the finish of the swim, as you can see, just gone 8 minutes.
We're going to have a break of about 9 guys up front, and then not much time to the next group of 15, and then 30 guys coming out in sort of the second chase pack. But it'll be up there with Varga, Raphael, Schumann, probably Vasilyev. I don't imagine that Brownlee is much further off than maybe 5 or 10 seconds when they come out of the water. Then it'll be downhill. So that usually those who've watched here before have seen a very elaborate transition zone in Kitbuhel. Well, it's very basic today because everything's at the top of the mountain. So once they leave here, it'll be top of the mountain for the rest of the day. So very fast swims, 8:40 and change. So they are really moving out there.
Really have organised this event superbly. The locals here, they've got these huge TV screens up on the mountain where Barry and I are in the commentary position, so that the fans who flocked here, and this is a great place to watch the race, will follow everything that's happening in the swim as we look at those.
Brownlee up there, so 9 seconds back. He's where you would have expected. Young American Ben Canute, big star. He's a University of Arizona boy. He's in a great place and won all 3 of the U.S. championships. There's Mola. Great spot for Mola, and he is a phenomenal rider. I think he'll be a big factor today. Mario Mola out of the water there, 20-plus seconds back. Lauren Vidal a little further than I would have anticipated for him, almost 30 seconds. Sven Reeder, the Olympic Games bronze medalist in 2004. Matt Shabbat. So we're looking at about a 30-second gap here for most of these guys coming out of the water.
There's Richard Murray, always a little off the pace after the swim.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see what he does on the bike, because he's a class act, former world champion duathlete, of course.
Kyle Jones a little further back than he would have liked to look like about 45 seconds. Andrew York right in that group as well, so these boys are going to have to go. Again, remember, it's downhill onto cobblestone. Richard Murray, so, you know, some guys are going to get a better ride into this first 4K with Richard Murray so close. There's that green line. You have to be over it before you get on the bike, or you're added some extra time. Sharp, a very talented man who's got medals in the under-23 category for Great Britain. And there's that lead group. Let's just take a look and see. So Javier Gomez, I mean, what a machine. Ripped up shoulder, and he's in 5th place out of the water. I mean, it's remarkable how consistent, and we might just see this at the end of the day, that no matter what kind of course you throw out there, the best guys still just keep coming through. We've always said you could ride them up the side of the Empire State Building and probably get the same outcome. There's young Schumann from South Africa. Raphael behind him. And they'll be hitting pretty quickly into that mountain. There's the mountain right there. The clouds up with us. They're talking about rain. Maybe by the end of the men's race, very likely by the time they get into the women's event.
Yeah. Don't be fooled by the fact it looks pretty flat at the moment. That's because it is. Downhill, as you can see, as we go towards the city centre, or the town centre of Kitbuhel. And then things are going to start to get very painful, possibly for some of these guys with the gradients involved.
So there's Mola, great spot. Brownlee, Canute, there's the young U.S. athlete. United States continuously trying to develop a few more men. They've had great women over the last 20 years, if you think back to people like Barb Lindquist and some of the others who've been superstars. This guy can rock on the bike, the young Belgian. We've consistently seen him have one of the better rides. There's Vasilyev just ahead. So they'll come into town, make a very hard, it's all downhill, hard left-hand turn, right through an arch, onto the cobblestone, and then they do a bit of weaving and bobbing on some narrow streets before they eventually hit that big ugly beast right there, and that will be the monster. And again, this really does not do justice. I walked up it 2 years ago. It took me 3 hours to walk. There were, you know, people that were well over an hour to go up the mountain this morning for the age group race. There's the beautiful downtown section. They actually had a mini triathlon right at this corner last night. They use an endless pool, a treadmill, there's the cobblestone, a treadmill and an electronic bike, and it's a 3-person team. While your swimmer is swimming, the biker is on electronic bike, the runner's on the treadmill, and as long as the swimmer can last until he eventually pops off, and they just make the speed faster, faster, faster in the water, you accumulate the total mileage that your biker and runner has accumulated, and that's your team score. So they were still doing it 10:30 last night. The Austrians were having a wild party outside of my hotel room.
Just past St. Catherine's Church, right in the heart of the town centre, built way back in 1360. It is a wonderful and historic town, Kitbuhel. If you ever get the chance to come here, you should. They've got about 10,000 hotel and guest room beds in Kitbuhel, which is more. They've got more beds than the actual population, such is the demand, both during the ski season and in the summer, where there are hiking trails and bike trails and golf courses and the rest of it.
Well, there's our young U.S. athlete taking the lead, so he's not paying any due respect to the big boys there. Canute from the United States. You can see Raphael and the boys just coming through here. That's our lead group, and it's about now maybe 3 minutes to showtime. They are not long now till they make a hard right and then on to the start of the mountain.
It will be fascinating just to see what the tactics are.
Gomez, look at there, you can see the arm all chewed up, his leg as well. Made zero excuses. In fact, I had to find out from others that he had this problem. Nobody was, you know, saying, look, here's what's the deal is. 48 seconds or so back to the chase group of athletes. So Gomez riding that specialized bike at a very quick pace here. He was telling me that he did some training rides for 30 minutes, well over 400 watts. So if that's accurate, that is just ridiculously high speeds. There you can see a lot of the chase group of athletes.
João Silva.
Yeah, Silva. He's in a good spot. Gigglemeyer, who we had a penalty kick contest earlier this week with Johnny Brownlee, along with Gigglemeyer, Vidal, and Eustace from Germany, and each of them took 3 penalty kicks on a professional football goalie, and it went into sudden death overtime, and Vidal won. He beat John Brownlee. So it's the first time I've beaten Johnny in 3 years, and it had to be on a football pitch, not on a triathlon.
Well, if you are in an area which picks up our magazine show, you'll be able to see some brief highlights of that penalty shootout when that show next airs in your region. Meantime, the ascent is ever nearing.
Yeah. But they've got a good 40-plus second gap, so they are moving fairly well. There's the young Austrian into that group. Varga is there. The Belgian has ridden himself up. I think Dan Wilson is into there. Wilson could be one of those surprising guys because he is very, very strong, has done long distance, has done hilly kind of races, lived on the circuit for a decade. He's not Mr. Glamour Boy from Australia, but he's Mr. consistently hardworking for the last sort of 4 or 5 years and been showing some promising. Here we go, out of the saddle. Now it's time, boys, to decide if you're going to go with Brownlee, if you're going to go with Gomez, or if you're going to do your own race. And I think probably 4 or 5 of these young boys are going to get a little bit of a lesson. We'll see if young Canute here tries to go with them or smartens up very quickly.
Just before they started the ascent, you might have seen there were 5 kind of directional avenues, mostly for tourists, pointing out, you know, what is this way. And there should have been another one added for these guys, Hain, which is what they're going to be feeling in the next 40 minutes or so. We reckon that's roughly about the kind of time, maybe a little less than that.
There's Raphael up front. You can see the French uniform. Brownlee, not surprised. Gomez, not surprised. And I talked to Alistair. He, not using a power meter, was planning to just see how many people he could blow up. So there's Schumann from South Africa. Gomez, Brownlee, those are 2 names we've never heard of before. It doesn't matter the course, the format. These guys pretty similar. So on the Boardman bike, I was harassing Alistair yesterday. I said, look, I want a signed book. He and Johnny have a beautiful book that's out and it's been a bestseller already in England. I said, look, I want a copy of your book. And so last night I got into my hotel room and it said, you know, good luck, thanks Barry, from Johnny and Alistair Brownlee. Now we need our plug. So I've paid for my book here. There they're coming around the corner, and this is the flat section of the course. You know, we came up on the gondola, so already Varga, a few of the other boys getting spit out here. I mean, this is serious riding. Wilson, who I can see right there, Canute. And there's the mountain that they're going to continue to climb, multiple back and forth. Vincent Louis, a talented Frenchman who's had lower leg stress problems, did race at the Olympics, but he's had lower leg problems for a while. So, well, Canute has committed himself to this group, as is Varga. So 1 of 2 things are going to happen. Canute is either going to have the race of his life, or he'll be 10 minutes back by the end of the bike ride. We'll see.
So often, Alistair Brownlee at the front of the bike stage, trying to either initiate a break or just trying to keep the pace up.
Vasiliev right in there in 4th place. So it's Brownlee, Gomez, Schumann, Vasiliev in the first 4, Varga, Canute. So if you're just tuning in, Canute is certainly a name most people wouldn't have heard of before or not be that familiar with. In addition, there's Schumann, who is a tremendously talented swimmer. There is Mario Mola, who's going to ride himself up front. Sven Reeder is getting right in there. Stefan Eustace, Kyle Jones in a great spot now. So he's where he wanted to be. Large group here of about 10 or 12. There's Will Clark just going through. He had a crash himself. So he's hanging on. Jason Wilson into that bunch. So the swim did make some kind of a move, because I can see some of those athletes who've gotten themselves into top. Let's see where Clark Ellis is. He's a motivated rider. He may have in fact been in there. Look at the difference already of those pedal strokes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, so what's happened, some of those boys have went too hard already and are going to start paying the price here. Perez from Mexico. There's some guys going to get some great shots. Literally there are stuff written all the way up the mountain.
Breakaway of 6 now, Barry, effectively.
Yeah. And the youngest of that bunch, Canute, who is a University of Arizona young athlete. He won all 3 domestic collegiate championships in the United States in 24 hours. So team, individual, and drafting format. See the helicopter there, they'll be getting some great shots. I can see Jason Wilson on the right side of our screen. And literally it is just one turnover after another turnover, and this is still the flat section of the course. Like, this is not ugly yet, I can tell you.
Wait till it gets to the serious gradient towards the end of this bike.
Alistair said he thought he could take 30 seconds out of people in the last 1 kilometer. Literally the last K, he figured he could take like 30 seconds out of people if they made a mistake. Vasiliev struggling there. He's a little bit of a bigger guy, and it looks like he's starting to fall back. There's Gigelmeyer, the almost professional cyclist, next to Vidal, who actually won the kickoff, the sudden death football kickoff. I think that's Jason Wilson on the right with the yellow and the blue. Zip, Clark on the left. So I would have anticipated Mario Mola a little further up, but Mola looks like he's, no, that's Gomar, Jesus Gomar from Spain, so not surprised. Murray right there, he's got that Specialized bike as light as he could possibly do it. Richard Murray, Stefan Eustace. There's Ryan Sissons. I just saw Sissons' Kiwi outfit just ahead of Richard Murray. Stefan Eustace right there was in the kickoff with us, and his father was a 1972 Olympian in 1,500 meters running for Germany, so some talent. So Vasiliev getting spit here, and just 2, 3, 4 extra kilograms can be all that makes the difference in being able to stay up. Very impressed with Varga and Canot. Now I just don't know if Canute, if he's going to try to stay in there. So we have now had a break. Brownlee has gone off the front.
On his own.
Yeah.
On his own, up this hill, up this mountain, I should say. The Kitzbuhle Horn.
He rides on this kind of, he said, look, I've been riding on this stuff since I was 7 years old back home where I live. 70 kilograms, 154 pounds. So his total weight is not that large. His wattage is tremendous. And when you divide a big wattage of absolute power by a fairly small body weight, you are a machine going up a mountain. And look at how many corners they still have here. It is a long way, Trevor. Gomez told me he was not going to get caught into Brownlee's race. He was going to look at his own sort of perceived exertion and make sure that he was ready to ride hard for 31 minutes, not just take off too hard with Alistair, and Alistair's, you know, making the bit of the break, and he's now pushed off the front.
It was an interesting quote, wasn't it? There's something along the lines of, I'm not going to play any of Brownlee's games or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Brownlee's game right now is to put the pedal to the metal, and he has put a sizable gap into the competition. It's Gomez back, and then you see the group of 5. Richard Murray now. Jason Wilson, wow, he is out of the saddle, moving very well around these corners. These guys want to cut these corners as tight as they can. Look at Wilson from Barbados, won the Barbados Triathlon, goes to University of Guelph. Is Craig Taylor his coach there, one of the Canadian development coaches. And there's Brownlee, and you cannot see Gomez come around the corner, but you can see snow on that other mountain that some of the best alpine skiers in the world have been on.
Well, Alistair Brownlee, the leader there, the man in your picture, you could kind of almost do a world tour of the places that Brownlee's won on the WTS circuit. 3 times in Madrid, 3 here in Kitzbuhel, as I mentioned, twice in London, Washington, San Diego, Gold Coast, Budapest, and Beijing. That's 13 total, and he's keen for number 14 at the moment, unless he's misjudged this. And
look at the cows coming out to, they want to even get a picture of.
They won't be able to catch him.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I was amazed at how high the cows were up this mountain. Look at the cameras as he comes around the corner, the solo body. So Vasiliev getting punted there. And Mr. Reederer, Mr. Olympic Games, and Mola, those two guys going at it toe-to-toe, moving very, very well.
So you mentioned, Barry, that Brownlee has come here and he's ridden this course before.
He knows how hard to push.
And he will know, roughly time-wise, what point of the course he needs to be, because it's dangerous, isn't it? If you do miscalculate when you're out on your own, that can do you serious damage.
Yeah, no question. Springer from Austria. Now, you got to believe the local cameras are going to keep picking up every Austrian athlete they can find on the course, but this guy's moving very well. And look, he's another smaller body. Just behind him, Mario Mola will be coming up around the corner here. These guys are going to remember the time that they had a chance. This will not be raced next year because it's the European Championships and it's got to be an Olympic distance format. And the problem is you can't come down this mountain. It is so absolutely narrow roads that if there was two-way bike traffic, we would lose a third of the field. This is almost the only flat section of the entire course. So Brownlee will be at a bit of a disadvantage coming through that the flat section, the trees. The guys who are there in sort of a group of about 6 will all have a bit of an advantage if they start to ride together, just a bit of a draft. Obviously, Alistair's not going to have any draft. There's some hard-working young guys. You got to be impressed right there. Ben Canute starting to pay a little bit of the price. Varga coming up beside him, both on Trek bikes. And they can see Gomez just up around the corner. But this is impressive riding so far from Canute. I mean, we know that he's a talent. We know that he will be a factor. He's certainly not the runner of Gomez or the guys ahead, but he would go in ranking of a phenomenal swimmer, a very competent cyclist, as we're seeing, and a young guy with some good legs on the run that just needs some more years to see if he can mature into becoming a world-class runner off the bike.
Well, it's terrific experience for those guys as we switch back to the leader. I mean, what really fascinates me about Brownlee, not so much the fact that he wants to win the race, of course he does, but he wants to win it in some kind of style.
Steve Prefontaine.
He wants to absolutely demoralize and smash every single opponent.
Yeah, no, he's all about the smash. It's not just about showing up. And, you know, we've seen this so many times when he's been hollering at guys in a pack who aren't working hard enough. Yeah. He's the fastest runner. Why would he care how slow the pack goes? He wants the bike to be hard so that the run can be fast, so that he can feel proud of the entire effort. And anybody who watched Steve Prefontaine in his days in the United States, he wanted to absolutely smash the competition. Gomez looking over his shoulder there, and that's Schumann. That is impressive riding by that very small young South African athlete. Wow. Gomez, see the cut on the leg, on the arm.
Actually kept him out of the penalty shootout. He was going to be one of the competitors, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think that you're likely going to see these two guys just keep that pace going. Gomez said that he was just going to be consistent to the top of the mountain, not get pulled into Alistair Brownlee's games. And right now, you got to believe that Alistair Brownlee knows what to do. He just knows how hard to push.
We're never going to know for at least another 2 years, but had Johnny been fit, it would have been fascinating to see whether he would have gone with him or whether he'd have still made this solo break.
I think he would have still made it. When I talked to John Brownlee in the last race in Madrid, he said, "You cannot believe how fit my brother is on the bike. He is going to smash us." That was his quote to me off the air. Right. Look at that great helicopter shot looking back. They've just done a brilliant job here in Austria. I mean, they literally 5 days ago got the same footage on the best bicyclist up this mountain. Today, they've got to get the footage from a swim down in the lake, this incredibly tough bike ride, and then the out and back on this grueling, and I mean grueling, 2.5K run. 2.55K, you know, it's under 2 miles. It sounds ridiculously short. It is not. There will be people who literally will probably be walking by the time they get to the finishing line. And these are the best triathletes in the world. The course is that gruesome.
And what we haven't mentioned to our listeners, Barry, is that you'll be doing a little spot of mountaineering when you get to do the post-race interviews. You're going to go down the mountain to do them and then back up to come back to the booth here.
Well, all my training has been for one reason. It's just to get myself down to do the interviews. That's the only reason I've been training for the last 4 months. And literally, I need mountain goat boots because it's about a 42-degree angle from where we're seated to down to where the post-interview is, and then back up to do the finish. Look at the gap there. These guys are just blowing each other up, and Brownlee is unbelievable right now, the speed he's moving.
Yeah, we are nearly 28 minutes into this race. We were reckoning, what, an hour, maybe a fraction more for the winner?
Yeah, the guys were going, I think Alistair said 60 minutes, Gomez said 59 minutes and 59 seconds. There's Mola moving his way up the field on the left side. Springer there, Sven Reeder. So they are now about to catch up. So we're going to see, I think, Mola, and I picked Mola to be on the podium this weekend. I didn't pick Gomez to be on the podium, partially thinking that the accident might have taken a bit out of him, not a disrespect to how good Javier is, but Mario Mola is lighter, and he's been running incredibly fast. 29:04 he ran a couple of weeks ago for 10K. And here comes Sven Rieder. So the strong man from Switzerland is up now in the top 5. Mola and Gomez in the top 5. Schumann from South Africa. Varga hanging on. And a brilliant ride right there by Jason Wilson. I just saw him. So not a lot of surprises. Guys that we would have anticipated. We'll see where Richard Murray is here in a few minutes.
By the way, you may be noticing some messages sprayed onto the road.
Yeah.
This is to do with our You Say We Spray competition. If you follow at World Triathlon on Twitter, or you're a fan of facebook.com/World Triathlon, send us your message. 25 characters is the max, and we'll then pick a selection of the best and we'll spray them on the climb so that millions watching on TV around the world can see them. Obviously, goes without saying, keep them clean.
Well, they've been coming in large numbers. ITU's biggest problem is trying to figure out how much spray paint to use. But I saw them all the way up the road last night, and I can see more of them being put on the road as we speak. So it was a great contest, a really interactive relationship with ITU and their many fans around the world. And it's going to be a very, very interesting next 15 minutes of riding, because now it is, okay, we've done the sort of easy part of the ride. We had maybe a little bit of excitement. There's the end of the run. So literally that snake that we're looking at right there is the blue to the right is where the carpet is. Then they literally go to the left all the way down that hill to that little shack and start to climb the hill right there up what's now a gravel section of road. And then they come back. That looks like Ryan Sisson's coming through there. So if it is, Chris Gimmel will be over the top, because he had picked him to be one of his boys. There's Ben Canute just falling off the pace a little, not dramatically, but just a little. Wow, Wilson having a stud race. That is brilliant for that man in the under 23 category. Trains in Canada, but represents Barbados. Vincent Louis coming through, not much of a surprise here as our camera's trying to pick up the various athletes coming through. I think that in fact is Matt Charbot, who's just coming through. Richard Murray dropping off the pace. There's Big Raphael, who's much further back than he would like to be. Joel Silva struggling now. Stefan Eustace. Start to see the boys here coming around the corner. And look, these are Olympians. There's Vasiliev. So I get 1 for 11 on my Vasiliev pick. I had him a couple weeks ago when he got on the podium, but I think his body weight, and Gimmel said that, thought he just weighed a bit too much to go up this mountain fast enough. Stefan Eustace from Germany. A lot of the Germans not here. Jan Frodeno and a number of others. They've got their big race in 2 weeks, and there's a pressure, obviously, on the Germans to race very well at home. Plus, on top of that, Jan Frodeno is a very big man in terms of
not
triathlon.
his kind of course.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Going uphill, not so good. So he, I think he'll be on fire when we see him in Hamburg in 2 weeks.
Just to reiterate the standings as they are, with Gomez way clear, 700 points clear of silver at the top. Alistair Brownlee would have to challenge Gomez, would have to win here, pretty much win in Hamburg, Stockholm and London. Of course, more points available for London because it's the finale, the World Championship as such. So he could still, if he wins every race he runs in, and who's to say he can't, he's the Olympic champion, and he's looking good here with, what, just past 32 minutes and distance to go, 2.8 meters. He's a kilometer clear.
And this is not a kilometer where you just rock it in about 2 minutes. This is a kilometer where you leave a piece of your soul. Look at Eustace. You can see the body's up the road. He just can't do anything about it. If they're smart, they try to cut the apex here. So let's see if he goes right to that other corner. And I think he is being a very smart man, trying to make it the shortest distance you can around these corners. Helicopter up to the right. Lots of spectators have been out here, most of them up at the top of the mountain. We have a huge crowd up here. I can see them. So there you can see Murray struggling. Silva. Charbot riding his way through the field. You won't be thrilled to see a young U.S. athlete ahead of him in Ben Canute, but there's still a lot of day left ahead of this racing here. There's Will Clark having a solid day, and he's actually went down with a crash himself. Tony Dodds His mom and dad, I saw them earlier today. They're on the course. So they've come over to cheer on their son from Wanaka, New Zealand. And this is like hairpin turn 11 of 21. Like there's a lot more still to go, and the hardest part is in the last sort of 6 minutes. We're right now between 14 and 16%. It goes up to 21 to 23 over the last kilometer.
Yeah, that's when it will really take its toll on some of these riders.
Jonathan Zip right in there, number 40 also beside him. Vincent Louis, very talented Frenchman. That's a great shot. You can just get a sense there of how these corners come around and how it just eats into you. And he has just laid it down here. Alistair Brownlee, this is the kind of thing he's been looking for, because on many of the courses he's raced, it's difficult to get away when it's flat. Look at him look over his shoulder and say, hey, I can actually see people down there. I'm not going fast enough.
Well, he's playing catch me if you can
at
the moment, and they can't.
A kilometer lead, that is unbelievable already. There's Ben Canute. He's now been passed by Jason Wilson. So I think Canute went out a little bit too fast in that very first section of the course. Just a brilliant performance right there by Wilson. If he can even hang on anywhere, I think that's Dan Wilson just up ahead of him. No, Ryan Bailey. And that was one of the guys that the Aussie's been telling me. He's so slender, so his power to weight ratio is very large. He's been sitting consistently in the top 8 or 9 in most of the WTS races, and right now is living in Vitoria, Spain, along with his coach Jamie Turner, and U.S. athlete Gwen Jorgensen is in that training squad as well.
Yeah, just a reminder that the women's race will follow this race. There'll be a couple of hours gap, but stay with us. We will, of course, have live coverage of the women's elite race as Brownlee continues to really lay it down.
Well, every time a Brownlee has been in a race, with few exceptions, we have seen a victory over the last few years. There's Ryan Sisson, so he has ridden himself up very wisely. Chris Gimmel is going to be very pleased with his brilliance. He said, look, Ryan is...
Doesn't take much.
No, you're... you said it, not me. You got to take the abuse later on. Varga, there's Sisson, so he is having a stellar ride. Right now, top 5. So this is the kind of day that Ryan Sisson's been looking for, because he's had a half a dozen sort of 13, 15, 16th place finishes. Varga now going by Gomez, and again, look at the rip on the arm there, left arm of Gomez just below his race number, and his shorts were all sort of chewed up as well from the crash in Spain. So anybody who's ever gone down knows that feeling. For 3-4 days he hasn't slept. He said, you know, when I questioned him, I said, look, you don't need to make excuses, but how are you feeling? He said, I haven't slept for a couple days, a bit of a fever. That's going to be a lonely place there for Brownlee. In this transition zone, it may not show it on this angle, but it's on about a 22-degree angle. So you come in your shoes, and you physically are on about a 20-degree angle going through that transition zone. So some of these guys are literally probably going to ride, take their shoes off and run in their shoes, because if they try to ride in their bare feet, they may just end up going over on their side.
See all these you say we spray little comments that we put on the road for you, and you can see the gradient taking its toll. Schumann on the right, Springer, the Austrian there, Springer.
Thomas Springer having a absolute stud ride now. This guy is probably, and I'm just assuming, ridden this course 10 times, knowing that for about the last 8 months that this race was coming here, and this would be his one day to really strut his stuff. Schumann, what a phenomenal ride for this South African. Again, remember, he had that big breakthrough race in Yokohama where he got off the bike with Gomez and a few of the other big boys, including Brownlee, and hung on for a top 8 finish. So let's see if Schumann is able to do that. And there, now we're getting the sense of how evil that rise is. It's now starting to get 16, 17, 18% grade, and the bodies are just going to start to cry here pretty quickly.
But still no sign that Brownlee is coming back to the field at all.
The
if anything, it's the opposite.
No, the only time they're going to see Brownlee is when he's running back towards them on the back section of the run, and he's coming back towards the finishing line. Look at that big smile there. Springer is enjoying himself. 54 seconds from Alistair Brownlee back to the chase group, which includes Gomez. That is brilliant riding here. And, you know, I think this run now is going to really decide the podium. Not first, Brownlee, I can't imagine anyone touching him. But that up and down section, I was watching the age groupers out there, and it is horrendous. I mean, it is immediately a steep downhill. Their legs are going to be just crying. Their hamstrings are going to be tightening up. Their knees, Their quads are going to be, on fire, and then they got to turn, come back up that hill. So not going to be easy. These two guys, stars. Sven Rieder, the more experienced older man from Switzerland on the right. Mario Mola on the left. Very high cadence for Mola.
There's a terrific quote, excuse me, a terrific quote, Barry, from the early 60s when Arnold Palmer had been dominating world golf, and then Jack Nicklaus came along. And Palmer said of Nicklaus, he plays a game with which I'm not familiar. And I think the triathletes can say exactly the same about Alistair Brownlee. He's in a world of his own. He's the best triathlete, not just now, arguably, there's ever been.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I was at the U.S. Hall of Fame dinner in San Diego, and he spoke at that dinner, and they were absolutely blown away how articulate he was, his knowledge of the history of the sport, how the United States had played such a large role in, getting things off the ground. And he was funny. He was stuck around, and then he went out and blew the drawers off everybody 2 days later in San Diego. Look at him out of the saddle, another 180-degree turn, and now even when he looks over his shoulder, he won't see anybody on this course. Just absolutely brilliant. And I am so impressed with Schumann. Springer, I've got to think that this guy obviously has been a climber. He lives in the area in Austria, and so he knows the course. But Brownlee is on this like he's used this course on a regular training day.
Yeah, phenomenal performances by these guys in the wake of Alistair Brownlee, who's pretty much away and gone unless some disaster befalls him on the latter stages of the bike. Because remember, the run is, albeit uphill and steep, it's only 2.5 kilometers in total.
Well, one of the things that they've done on this course, different than we have had in the past, they've actually got portable motorcycles with wheels on it and some repair kits. So like the Tour, if something happens to you, instead of you having a Tour car, there's some neutral motorcycles that actually have wheels on it, so you don't have to worry about, I got a flat and I had to wait for 35 minutes, or I didn't get to the wheel drop area. There will actually be motorcycles coming up, but you know what, there's only a few of them, and if somebody does get a flat, I don't think we heard of many flat tires in the amateur race. They're going so slow, and the pavement is so good, it's not going to be an issue. The fear, however, of all the amateurs, they have to go down that mountain in about 4 hours, and that's the biggest fear. Not coming up, not how tough it was to come up, but to go down on the way home tonight.
Well, Brownlee has less than 1,000 meters to go on the bike before he gets out on the run. You know, the Yorkshiremen are kind of characterized in England as being incredibly single-minded. Sometimes it's meant as a criticism, but actually in Brownlee's case, I think you'd probably take it as a compliment. There's the distance, 50-second lead he has with 900 meters left to go.
So just a reminder, some of the people that came out of the water right up with Brownlee, Varga, Raphael, Schumann is still up in that area. Vincent Louis falling off. Gomez right now sitting back in second, third. Vasilyev well off the pace. McCartney is in another time zone back behind. And then a couple of the other guys, young Ben Canute, I think went a little bit harder than he should have gone. And guys riding themselves through. Mario Mola having a brilliant ride. Sven Rieder, not surprised. Guys who are either strong as hell or very light and powerful like Mario Mola.
Not sure what their reaction would be inwardly when they see that 1K to go sign. And
well, they're going to cry because it goes to 23%.
The good news is only 1K to go. The bad news is it gets mighty steep.
No, the bad news is there's 1K to go. The horrific news is it's 23%. This now what we're looking at is the final little snake to the finishing line. That blue carpet to the right is where they'll come in. It's on about an 18-degree angle, the transition zone. Those bikes on the other side are all the amateur bikes. They dropped their bikes, ran to a little basket that they grabbed their shoes and took off on the run. And this is one of the first times that the amateurs have done the exact same course as the elite men. You will be able to say, I am 1/3 as good as Alistair Brownlee. He did it in 59 minutes and I took 3 hours.
I hope your wife's medal is going to go in pride of place in the Shepley house.
Well, there's no other medals in her house that don't belong to my wife, so I was very proud of her finishing there today, and she said I owe her a day at the spa, so I may have to send you off to the casino tonight. See how lucky you are at casino Kitbuhel. Well, look at that. He's into the trees. He's into the final section, and this is where it gets ugly. Now that he's out of the saddle, it's not pretty. Look at him rocking back and forth. There were people pushing their bikes up here earlier this morning in the amateur race. Obviously not this guy. But he said to me, I think I can put 20 to 25 seconds into people in the last kilometer, and that's what he intended to do. Now, he's put that much and more into them through the first 8.5, 9 kilometers. Just a brilliant ride. Now, he hasn't had the ability to do a lot of running because of the foot problem, and I did talk to a couple of the other coaches who are interested. You know what? This is not a good course for him to be running on with an ankle problem. We'll see. There you can see Mola. Sven Rieder hurting, a little bigger. Mola having a brilliant ride here. I picked him to be on the podium. I picked Brownlee to be on the podium.
I still think even if Alistair Brownlee actually even broke his ankle, he'd kind of hop over the winning
Well,
line
there
if he
is
had
a
to.
story. When he was young, he got to an area and his shoes weren't there, so he ran the entire mile and a half in a youth race in his bare feet over gravel, got to the finishing line with cut feet but would not stop. So, yeah, I have to agree with you. That looks like Richard Varga, who is having just the monster ride of his life coming around the corner there. Look at this. We're coming into the late sections. Brownlee looks over and he will see no one. The spectators showing their respect and appreciation for literally the finest man to do a triathlon at the Olympic distance.
And how many sports can you get as close
None.
to the Olympic champion as that?
Yeah.
You try going to Augusta and sneaking up on Tiger Woods and see how far you get before
Yeah, some
security throw you out.
300-pound man might be putting your face into the river here. Obviously, cycling does it as well. There's a big crowd as he'll come around the corner here into the transition zone. Lots of questions on whether they leave their shoes on and run right to their running shoes, or do they, and there's a gondola, so he literally now is less than 150 meters. I just saw Ben Canute spray paint sign on the road. 44:25, wow. He said 59 minutes and 59 seconds was his time he predicted. It's gonna be a blowaway on that because we're at 44 minutes, 45 by the time he comes off the bike. He's only got 2.5 kilometers of running. You come underneath that big green barrier and then the transition zone is there. And they're going to be blown away. There's the blue carpet. Let's see if see that? That's the problem. You try to get out of the cycling shoes and your speed drops
almost
down.
stop.
Well, that's the guys were saying, look, I don't know if I get into my bare feet. Some of them are saying, I'm going to stay. Look, that's the problem. And, well, first man to test it, get off. He could take a 4-minute penalty and still win here. That 10 seconds ain't going to hurt him. 45 minutes. This is uphill, ladies and gentlemen. That is not downhill. There's Mario Mola having a star of a ride. So two of my picks right now riding themselves through.
Well, when you do the interview at the end, Barry, he'll probably say to you, the 22% gradient wasn't the problem. It's just an issue with the shoes.
I'm going to actually ask him if he'll run from down there up to our booth because I don't want to have to go down and come back up. So if we could get a message down to Alistair Brownlee, if he could run the 400 meters up to our survey box up here, that would be great. Here comes Mola. Wow. Just a phenomenal ride. And I had anticipated this would happen. And now this guy is maybe the second best runner right now in the sport after Alistair Brownlee. So he will go out. He's not going to catch Brownlee. And see, he's done it different. He's ridden right to the line, taking the shoes off. You're going to see every kind of ugly strategy today. Some of them have talked about, there's Sven Rieder. You know what? I should have put Rieder on my list of 3. The guy loves tough courses, big, strong man, and he's done it brilliantly. So let's see how much carnage to those guys who went out in that group. Remember, Ben Canute was in there. Raphael was into that group. Some of the big swimmers off the bike. We'll just see where they are at the end of the bike here in the gap that they have. There's Schumann. Wow, what a brilliant job by Schumann.
Looks like it's going to be Rieder's best WTS performance of the season.
Yeah.
9th in San Diego, 11th in Madrid. But
I don't see Henry Schumann running with Sven Rieder. I think that's your podium. Brownlee, Mola, Rieder, probably in that order. Henry Schumann trying to hang on desperately for a 4th place finish. And off they go. It's uphill to that white dextro energy and then a serious downhill where the legs will be just screaming. Ryan Sissons, wow, that is a brilliant ride for the Kiwi. He has a chance to run himself maybe into 3rd through Schumann. Probably Sissons going to finish 4th here on the day. Springer, I think he'll fall back, not as the same quality of a runner. Varga has not finished a few of the races, but star race. You and I may have to buy a little beverage, I think, for Chris Kimmel because the abuse we've been handing him out. His boy, who he's coaching here, Ryan Sissons, having a huge performance on that bike today.
Well, it will be Sissons' first top 10 in a WTS event since San Diego last year. So it could be a major breakthrough for him.
Yeah.
But meanwhile,
look at the turnover. Vincent Louis. That is a monster ride for Jason Wilson. This will be the race of his life, regardless of what happens. He's coming off the bike with Javier Gomez right there. So Wilson has timed this. He and his coach Craig Taylor have done a brilliant job of preparation for this race. Off the bike, top 10, phenomenal. Wilson, 10th, 2:29. There's Ben Canute, so the young guy has shown himself brilliantly. He will be the first U.S. athlete off the bike. Matt Charbot should be the next. And there's Brownlee. This is an out-and-back gravel section of this course. Jonathan Zip just coming off the bike. This is not going to be easy. I saw Mario Mola just coming through there. This run will be carnage. I guarantee you there are going to be some guys who are locked up walking when they come to that last 150 meters. It's that steep.
So Zip disappears off with 2.5 Ks ahead of him. Rather less for our leader, Alistair Brownlee.
This is now on a gravel section. They weren't even able to, there you can see the gravel section. It'll be 180 degrees, and then he'll come back down that hill and see, look, it'll just be monster gap, monster. That's a 180 degree turn at the top. So we still don't see Mola. We still don't see Sven Reeder.
You need a telescope to see the rest, Barry.
Yeah, I can, wow. This is a unbelievable performance by Brownlee. Not surprisingly, however, you'd have to wonder if Johnny hadn't come down with the food poisoning, would we have seen a 1-2 Brownlee day? I think you have to believe. Look at that. Justus just showing massive fatigue. I mean, he's having a hard time even getting to his bike. I can see Matt Charbot just coming into the picture there. Look, just struggling. I mean, he is breathing so hard he can't even get into his shoes. Vasiliev, I so blew that call. I thought that he might be able to hang with the boys, but it was just such a tough bike. So Gimmel's going to be taking it out of me when we do the TriCast here in another hour. Richard Murray taking off right there. He's struggling. So the big boys are hurting coming up to the top of this mountain.
Well, only 3 triathlons in the World WTS Series to go after today. We go to Hamburg, then Stockholm and London. And if, as expected, Alistair Brownlee secures victory here, he'll have run in 2 and won 2, and his brother Johnny would have run in 2 and won 2. We haven't yet seen them in the same race.
No.
Let's hope we do in a couple of weeks in Germany.
Buchholz, this guy can rock on the run, a former under-23 medalist. He's a phenomenal runner. There goes a couple of the Portuguese athletes, so off onto the run. Just phenomenal, just unbelievable performances.
We're going to have to find some higher mountains.
Well, no, there is nothing harder that you could throw at Brownlee. He has shown that he is the man in every format. When he wants something, he goes out and takes it. You know, the one race where we didn't see a great performance from him was 3 weeks after the Olympics at the Hy-Vee Triathlon. And quite honestly, he had been on the enjoyment, 3-week tour of signing autographs, kissing babies, and meeting the Queen. So he didn't go into that race worrying about much. Gomez dominated there. But in Gomez's defense today, you know, the guy came in with a crash. He could have easily not started the race. It shows what a class. He never complained. When I talk to him later on, he won't be complaining either. He'll just, there goes Brian Keane from Ireland. He'll just simply say, you know what, the better man won today, and the best man is going to dominate the course.
That's for sure. Just hearing that there's a time penalty for Ivan Vasiliev, so presumably some kind of indiscretion in T2, either getting off the bike too late or leaving something outside of his tray. But either way, there's a 15-second time penalty for Russia's Ivan Vasiliev.
There's Mola. So maybe the most get-the-job-done performance is by Mario Mola. We anticipated it. We knew that the domination that was going to happen out on that course by Brownlee. But Mola, phenomenal. And just wait till he comes around the corner. When he does the last 500 meters, it is like taking you up the side of a, here comes. I mean, he's going to start to hit the hardest part of the run where it gets 13, 14, 16%. I mean, literally, you almost can't get your arms turning over.
Well, Mola's going to make up ground on the two above him, both Silva and Gomez. Started in 3rd position, Mola, so it's an excellent performance from him.
Yeah, not a surprise. I mean, we were anticipating that this was going to happen. Here comes Brownlee, just absolutely dominating through there. What an unbelievable day. What a phenomenal performance. There goes Jared Shoemaker, like somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 minutes back. This is the greatest man to do an Olympic distance triathlon. I mean, you know, first we saw the great Simon Lessing and those athletes of that era. Then Whitfield came along in 2000 and took it to a new level. And it's just continued over the last 4 or 5 years. Gomez was the next generation, but the 3.0 version at this point is Alistair Brownlee. He comes out of the water in the lead. He dominated them on the bike, and he is the only man who can run, 28:30 for 10K. Look at Sven Rieder. He looks like someone has taken a baseball bat and drilled him in the side. This is on 3rd place, and he looks like he's 70 years of age in a power walking contest. This is carnage. Mola looks brilliant here. Just phenomenal. There's Kyle Jones, well back and hurting.
Just in case you're wondering, Rieder is 32.
Yeah, no, he's got 38 more years before he gets there. Schumann having a phenomenal race. You're seeing the smaller men, though. That's not a surprise. Schumann, a smaller guy. Mola, a smaller guy. Looking at Alistair Brownlee, obviously a smaller guy. These are men who are not that heavy. They don't have to carry that much weight up the mountain. Here comes Mola. The crowd just loving it. Look at all the signs along the way. And this now gets really tough. They make a right and then a left, and it is 18 to 20% grade on the run. He's putting out what is really a 2-minute 50-second effort, but going 4-minute kilometers up the mountain. That's how tough it is.
Well, the good news for Alistair is he's got about 350 odd meters to go to celebrate his 14th victory in the WTS World Series.
Nobody has a higher win percentage. It is just phenomenal. Gomez had it, but now Brownlee's taken over that win percentage. He doesn't have as many wins because he doesn't race as often, but when he does, he's a massive dominating guy. And now, you know what? He says, I got to race in another couple of weeks. I'm just going to enjoy this last few hundred meters. It's just a big left around the corner. And I guess he says he's got a penalty. Yeah, look at, no, he's just taking a smile. Somebody wanted a picture, I think. Maybe I think what he's doing is signing a few of the books. A few of the Brownlee books, Swim, Bike, Run. I think he has time to sign at least 10 of them before Mola gets around the corner.
Probably the equivalent of Roger Federer signing something in the middle of a point. Anyway, it's not going to make any difference because he's going to win. Well, he's going to win by as much as he wants to win by.
This is one of the most incredible courses and one of the largest dominating performances we have ever seen in a triathlon. 750 meters of swimming. The toughest bike course that we have ever seen the strongest men on, and onto the blue carpet. And not only today will he be able to kiss babies, he might have time to actually change their diapers before he gets to the finishing line. Brownlee, absolute domination, 2 wins, 2 races in 2013, and he owns what he wanted, the toughest course. And he will have time to look back and see a brilliant performance by a guy who will have to be oh so pleased, and that is Mario Mola. Wow, Mola stepping up, and you know what? It would have been great to have seen both Brownlee Jr., Johnny, and Javier Gomez to be 100% healthy, but Mario Mola did what everyone anticipated, and that is had a brilliant ride and then got through on this run. Kudos to the man. Big performance. And I'm going to have to work my way down to the finishing line now. I'm going to let you bring our last man across because it's going to take me an hour and 10 minutes to get down there. But now just coming up around the corner, I think, is going to be Sven Rieder.
Well, good luck with your descent and subsequent ascent. Alistair Brownlee's time, 55 minutes and 24 seconds. The way he just strolled over the line, you talk about a walk in the park. It's just a walk up a mountain for Brownlee today. Mario Mola in a really good second place, 37 seconds behind. And here comes the bronze medalist Sven Rieder. With Schumann, tremendous performance from him. They found a Swiss flag for Sven Rieder. It's just concerned that Schumann's going to catch him. He won't though, because there's the line. Rieder confirmed in 3rd, and Schumann a terrific performance from the South African in 4th place. Just 3 seconds behind Rieder, and similarly for Richard Varga, who we see so often make the pace in the water and then just fade away. Looks like he has every chance of finishing 5th. He's certainly going to have a top 10, that much is for sure. And there's Sissons from New Zealand, another who will look back very fondly on this display. Mentioned many times, this is a unique course. It's sorted the men from the boys, that's for sure. Just wonder how far adrift Javier Gomez is. Barry was mentioning that he had those injuries, and potentially Springer from Austria, great display from him. 7th place Vincent Louis from France in 8th, then Ryan Bailey of Australia. Still, the series leader, Javier Gomez, will be outside the top 10. Kason Wilson, what a display that is. Top 10 place on the hardest course of all. You can see how they're struggling. Varga there. Here comes João Silva, who began the day second in the rankings. And there's Javier Gomez just finishing behind him in 13th place.